For generations, we've been trying to solve one of the biggest challenges facing humanity, global poverty. The question of how to do it has been at the heart of economics and policy for, well, forever. So let's dive right into this, because some new research suggests we might be overlooking a really critical piece of the puzzle. For the longest time, we've thought the path out of poverty was paved by two key economic forces. We've built entire development strategies around them. But what if that whole framework, as powerful as it is, well, incomplete? What if there's another factor out there, one that's just as important, that we haven't really been paying attention to?
Okay, so to really get what might be missing, we have to first look at the old playbook. For decades, two factors have been the undisputed stars of the show when it comes to fighting poverty. On one side, you've got economic growth. Think of it as the engine of the whole operation. When a country's economy gets bigger, it creates jobs, incomes go up, and that lifts the whole boat. But then you've got the other side of the coin, inequality. This is like the distributor. Because if all the money and benefits from that growing economy just flow to the people at the very top, well, the boat might rise, but the people at the bottom are still left behind.
So for years, the accepted wisdom was this simple two-part formula. Get that economic engine running and make sure the system is fair enough to spread the wealth around. That's been the cornerstone of global policy forever. It's logical, it makes sense, but as we're about to find out, it might not be enough. And this is where it gets really interesting. A 2023 study by Edgar Tovar Garcia says, hey, wait a minute. There's a third, absolutely vital ingredient we need to add to this recipe. And that ingredient is trust. But, and this is important, not just any kind of trust. We're talking about something called institutional trust. The paper defines it as the confidence people have that formal institutions, the government, the courts, the police, public services, are actually going to work for the good of everyone. It's the basic belief that the system isn't rigged. Now let's be super clear here. This is not the same as social trust. Social trust is about whether you trust your neighbors or the person you meet on the street. Institutional trust is totally different. It's about your relationship with the big, formal structures of power. And that distinction is absolutely crucial for what comes next. So you might be wondering, how does this kind of trust actually fight poverty? Well, the research suggests it kicks off this amazing chain reaction. First, it encourages participation. When people trust institutions, they're way more likely to get involved and hold them accountable. Then, that accountability helps stamp out corruption, making sure that money for poverty programs actually gets to the people who need it. And finally, with more participation and less corruption, it just makes it easier for communities to cooperate and solve problems together. Okay, it's a powerful idea for sure, but is there any proof, any hard data? Well, for that, we can turn to the Tovar study itself, which looked for evidence in a region that's kind of perfect for this kind of question, Latin America. So, here's the rundown. The study looked at 25 years of data, from 1995 all the way to 2019, across 15 different countries in the region. It used a pretty sophisticated statistical method to untangle the real, long-term relationships between our four key players: poverty, growth, inequality, and of course, institutional trust. Okay, so the study crunched all those numbers. The main thing it wanted to know was this: what is the direct impact of each of these factors on extreme poverty, which is defined as people living on less than $1.90 a day? First up, economic growth. And yep, just like everyone expected, it's a huge deal. The study found that a 1% increase in GDP per capita led to a 3.7% drop in extreme poverty. So that confirms it. A rising tide really does lift a lot of boats. Next, inequality. And again, the data showed what we pretty much already knew. A 1-point increase in inequality was linked to a 0.8% increase in extreme poverty. So yes, a more unequal society is a poor society. No big surprises so far. And then came the big one, the real kicker: the impact of trust. A staggering 2.71% reduction in extreme poverty for every 1-point increase in trust. Just let that sink in for a second. The power of just trusting your institutions is almost as strong as the power of the entire economy growing. This isn't just some minor third factor. It's a total game changer. So what do we do with this? What's the real takeaway here? Well, it pretty much forces us to rethink our entire approach to this problem. Look, the big point is this: fighting poverty isn't a two-legged stool propped up just by growth and equality. It's a three-legged stool,
And even though those legs might have different levels of impact, the fundamental insight is that if you kick out any one of them, whether it's growth or equality or trust, the whole thing falls over. You need all three.
The paper's own conclusion puts it perfectly. Strengthening institutional trust isn't just some nice-to-have thing. It's essential. It creates what they call an enabling environment where all the other stuff, the economic policies, the social programs, can actually work and have a lasting impact.
And that leaves us with one final massive question, doesn't it? If trust is this powerful, then the challenge suddenly shifts from being purely about economics to something much, much deeper. It's not just about how we make money or how we spread it around anymore. The most important question we might need to ask now is, how on earth do we build trust?